We all need time alone, quiet moments, breathing room. Solitude can heal us when we choose it. But when it chooses us, when being alone stops feeling peaceful and starts feeling permanent, it begins to erode something deeper. Welcome to Filtered Society, where inequality meets social media. If you believe stories like this deserve to be heard, please subscribe. Isolation changes us, slowly and invisibly, until the mind starts turning on itself. Science shows that when humans are cut off from connection, our stress hormones spike, our perception distorts, and our sense of self begins to unravel. In labs and prisons alike, isolation triggers the same neurological pattern. The limbic system, the brain's fear center, goes into overdrive, while the prefrontal cortex, which handles empathy and moral reasoning, begins to shrink. We stop thinking clearly. We stop trusting others. We stop feeling real. And yet, we live in a culture that normalizes this kind of isolation. The irony is that we're more connected than ever before. But we don't talk about how much of that connection is a simulation, how much of it exists inside a screen. For many people today, loneliness doesn't happen in a prison cell. It happens on social media feeds, surrounded by millions of other people performing connection they don't actually feel. We used to call this kind of sensory and emotional deprivation solitary confinement. Now, it's just Tuesday night on your phone. In prisons, solitary confinement has been described as psychological torture. A person trapped in a windowless cell for 23 hours a day starts to lose their grip on time, identity, and meaning. But outside those walls, a subtler version is happening everywhere. One that's voluntary, addictive, and almost invisible. Social isolation has become a product, and loneliness has become the business model. The digital economy doesn't profit when we're together. It profits when we're scrolling. Platforms learned long ago that real relationships take time, patience, and forgiveness. But parasocial ones? Those scale. So we've built a system where human attention is mined like a natural resource, and every minute you feel disconnected, someone else makes money. It's no accident that depression, anxiety, and loneliness are skyrocketing while engagement numbers hit record highs. We live inside what psychologists call the isolation paradox. The more we reach for connection through our screens, the more disconnected we feel in real life. Because most of what we're fed isn't connection, it's content. And content doesn't hug you back. If you spend long enough alone with the noise of algorithms, the effects begin to mirror solitary confinement. You lose your sense of time. Days blur. Your body still moves, but your world shrinks to a glowing rectangle. Your thoughts loop and spiral. You start comparing yourself to faces that aren't real, bodies that are filtered, couples that are performing love for engagement metrics. And the longer you stay, the more it becomes your social reality. Psychologists have a phrase for this: social reality testing. It's the process of using others to confirm whether your thoughts and emotions still make sense in the world. When we lose that mirror, we start to fracture. The internet gives us the illusion of mirrors, but they're distorted. Influencers become stand-ins for friends. Comment sections become therapy sessions, and our emotions are moderated by algorithms designed to keep us watching. In solitary confinement, the goal is control. To break someone without touching them. To replace community with compliance. Online, it's not punishment, it's profit. The same isolation that destroys prisoners is now repackaged as entertainment and monetized as engagement. We've built an economy of loneliness, where connection is a subscription and attention is currency. We scroll through endless digital cells, each profile a tiny window with someone else's face, and we mistake access for intimacy. We've learned to speak to hundreds, but connect to no one. And just like solitary confinement, this new kind of isolation leaves scars. The constant flood of content rewires the brain's reward system. The longer we chase digital validation, the less satisfying real connection feels. We become anxious around silence, uncomfortable around slowness. We need to be seen to feel alive. But in chasing that, we forget how to simply be. The parallels are eerie. Solitary confinement was once introduced as a moral reform, time alone to reflect and grow. Social media was too. It was supposed to connect us, democratize voices, make the world feel smaller. Instead, both systems evolved into machines of control. Solitary was meant to rehabilitate. It broke people instead. Social media was meant to unite. It's divided us instead. In US prisons, over 100,000 people still live in solitary cells, barely larger than a parking space. In digital life, billions of us sit alone in rooms of our own, staring into personalized feeds that reinforce what we already believe. Both are isolation chambers, one enforced, one chosen, both harmful. But the solution isn't abandoning technology, it's reclaiming how we use it. In the same way that humane prison reform focuses on rehabilitation and reintegration, humane digital reform begins with reconnection, real, physical, emotional reconnection. Touch, conversation, community, patience, things that don't scale. The first step is awareness. The next is resistance. Every time you pause before posting, every time you choose a call over a text, every time you meet a friend without filming it, you're rebelling against the isolation economy. You're choosing something the algorithm can't predict: presence. In Norway, prisons emphasize empathy over punishment. In your own life, empathy might be the escape key. Ask how often you actually feel seen, not just watched. Ask how much of your life has turned into content. Ask how often you reach for your phone instead of a person. These questions aren't guilt trips, they're reality checks. Because the first stage of freedom is noticing the walls. If solitary confinement is torture, then digital isolation is slow suffocation. So gradual we barely notice until we can't breathe without a screen. We don't have to destroy technology to fix this. We just have to remember what it's for. Communication, not competition. Connection, not content. The human brain didn't evolve to live inside algorithms. It evolved to live inside stories, rituals, and relationships. When we lose those, we don't just feel lonely. We start to forget who we are. So maybe the cure for this new isolation isn't deleting every app. Maybe it's relearning how to exist without performing, to feel without sharing, to rest without recording, to speak without rehearsing. Maybe freedom begins the moment we stop confusing being seen with being known. Because in the end, isolation, whether behind concrete walls or glowing screens, does the same thing. It convinces us we're alone when we never were. Real connection has always been waiting outside the feed. All it asks is that you look up.